What? What is happening in 2019? This has been the year of just underwhelming and disappointing media. I mean, Endgame had like 3 good moments in it, but was otherwise a plot hole ridden mess of a movie. And if Captain Marvel is gonna be the new face of the MCU, that whole thing is gonna burn in a hilariously glorious inferno. Then Game of Thrones blows its entire story that was built up for 7 seasons in a single episode. Really now, they just beat what is essentially Satan. Who cares who gets to be king of a corrupt medieval fantasy dystopia? And then there's this.
Gotta go fast.
Where do you even begin? Who was drunk behind the wheel on this one? And why use Gangsta's Paradise for Sonic? If nothing else, dig up any of the songs from the Sonic Adventure series. At least those were fast-paced. But I'm not here to talk about any of those in depth. Lord knows they've already been dissected in spectacular fashion by far more successful YouTubers. No, what I want to talk about is Into the Badlands. So for the uninitiated, which is likely a lot of you as it's more of a cult show, Into the Badlands is a big, awesome spectacle kung fu show. It follows Sonny in his quest for redemption. He was the most skilled killer in the land, knocks up his boo, and decides to find more in life. Along the way, they meet a varied cast of characters from a silver-tongued thief with a heart of gold, to a young girl having her world shaken apart by her mother's evil, to the greatest villain to ever grace AMC's channel.
404 souls, all taken from me. No clipper in the Badlands is more feared or more loyal. This man standing here is a far cry from the miserable whelp I laid eyes on all those years ago. Sonny was found naked and shivering down by the Rabbit River. No parents, no past, no name. I figured if the Badlands hadn't killed him, there must be a strength inside him. So I took him in, forged him into the man you see today. Maybe the boy whom we'll follow in his footsteps is in this room. Is it you? Are you? Are you? Now, I ask, do you want to be part of my family?
Yes, sir!
Do you want the best of everything?
Yes, sir!
Do you want to kill in my name?
Yes, sir!
Your future has begun.
So what happened? Well, as mentioned, the story follows Sonny. He is the main protagonist. At first, he's just the greatest warrior in the Badlands. He tries his hardest to get safe passage to a place called Azra for his lover and unborn child. I'll get more into Azra later, but it's hyped up in the first 2 seasons to be a more modern metropolis in a desolate wasteland. A refuge of modernity for those poor souls who struggle to survive under the jackboot of the Barons. He tries to do this with the help of MK, a kid he found along the way who has super special Super Saiyan powers. Well, things go south as they tend to do, and Sonny alone makes it out of the Badlands, only to be sold into slavery. MK is captured by some warrior monks, and the Barons go to war with each other. That was Season 1, and Season 2 kicks off with Sonny trying to get to Vale, his baby mama, and Henry, his son. Along the way, he meets Baji, a former monk with a penchant for surviving stab wounds, saves MK, and steals a badass black sword. And for being done with killing, he racks up one hell of a body count. So that's what Sonny is up to. The Barons, on the other hand, have the much more interesting story going on that I'll try to sum up to major points. The main thing going on is the Widow is trying to reform things and most of the other Barons say no. The Widow's shtick is she wants to eliminate the serf class called cogs. She wants equality for everyone. Sounds good. Well, over the course of the season, it becomes abundantly clear that all she really wants is to become the only Baron running the Badlands. Then she gives Vale to the greatest villain AMC has ever had in exchange for political favors in an effort by the writers to complete the villainy circle. She antagonizes the story as a whole, and ideally, she antagonizes the audience by giving the closest thing to a paragon of goodness the series has to a madman. This leads to Vale's death, which was predicted by everyone involved in the situation except Quinn. Quinn wanted to marry her. Now I want to focus on the Widow for a minute. Her plot with the other Barons was hands down the best part of Season 2, and she was the trendsetter for what might be considered the central idea of the series. All these people going after power are no different from one another. They're all just another Baron. And in my opinion, her and Pilgrim, who comes along in Season 3, are the most evil villains because of this. They both play up being saviors when in reality they're just another Baron. For me, it's that deceitfulness that bumps them up ahead of Quinn or Madame Chow. Like, Quinn is a jackass, but he's an honest jackass. His philosophy of survival of the fittest applies to everyone, including him. He has made no mystery that his ideal end would be someone killing him for power the same way he attained his. This is, by the way, the reason the other Barons don't like the Widow too much, as she killed the Baron she took over from in his sleep. Now, I point that out to give you an idea of my mindset and reasoning for the ending of Season 3 and why I dislike it so much. We're going to break up Season 3 into parts 1 and 2 because they did a mid-season split and part 2 is where the problems lie. So part 1, Pilgrim shows up. He's trying to rebuild Azra and he has his own Super Saiyans to help him do it. Pilgrim specifically can shut down the other Super Saiyan powers. Other than being a religious priest for Azra, that's his gimmick. Sonny has been taking care of Henry, who develops his own Super Saiyan powers, so he and Badgie go to Pilgrim to save Henry, because apparently Super Saiyan powers in a baby are bad, and it doesn't go well. Meanwhile, the Widow is still at war with Madame Chow, and no one is happy anymore. Widow's closest aides have left her and/or are actively resisting her, and she's still telling people, no, seriously guys, we're making the world better, then turning around and sending them all to die over 5 feet of land. Again, hammering home that she's no better than the other Barons. MK is captured at this time and learns to control his Super Saiyan powers. In doing so, somehow he learns Sonny killed his mom. This only raises more questions than it answers, so we'll just move on. Because part 1 of Season 3 was really good regardless. It had definitely fallen off, but it was still good, and I mostly attribute that to Pilgrim not being quite as good as a main antagonist as Quinn. So let's get into part 2. Before we get into this, let's go ahead and talk about how when the release date for Part 2 was dropped, AMC also announced this is going to be it for the show. No more after this. I don't go after behind-the-scenes stuff, all I have are theories, and mine is this decision blindsided the crew. I say this because things get rushed. Hard. Let's start with Azra. As mentioned, Azra was hyped up in Seasons 1 and 2 to be a place of salvation. Pilgrim says it's gone and he wants to rebuild it in Part 1 of Season 3. However, it's left ambiguous as to whether or not it's actually gone or if it's just rejected him. At least that's how I interpreted it. But no, Azra is gone. Completely. In fact, Sonny is the Prince of Azra, or something, and it was destroyed by the Black Lotus when he was a kid. And Azra wasn't a paradise. It was just another kingdom with another dick ruler who murdered whoever looked at him wrong. The only thing special about it was a central hub of sorts for Super Saiyans. Which, again, more questions than answers, almost all revolving around MK and how he had relics of Azra in Season 1. I mentioned the Black Lotus. They came out in Part 1 of Season 3 as a mysterious force hunting Sonny. Yeah, they're dealt with in like 2 episodes. As it turns out, they're just more assholes too. You had the warrior monks, their leader gets beaten one episode where, again, she learns she's just another Baron. MK teaches the monks how to control their Super Saiyan powers, which amounts to get really, really mad. Seriously, how did no one in that monastery or out in the world with latent Super Saiyan powers ever get really, really mad before? You'd think it would have been having to meditate for a few years in a volcano or some shit like that, but nope! Just dwell on how crappy your life is and you too can go Super Saiyan. Oh, and that whole war with Madame Chow? She gets one episode where the Widow decapitates her in one of the Joker's hideouts that survived the Badlands. So they're rushing everything through, and that includes character relationships. As mentioned, the Widow pretty much killed the mother of Sonny's child. You think he'd feel a way about that, but nope, turns out the Widow is preggers and the child's name must be Martha, cause Sonny gets over his issues pretty fast.
Why did you say that name?
This from Sonny telling her he's only working with her until they deal with Pilgrim, at which point he openly plans to kill her. This whole time, MK is graduating to Pilgrim's right-hand douchebag because the whole idea of Sonny's character arc being redemption is lost on him and the writers. And finally, the Widow gets high in an effort to unlock her own Super Saiyan powers, only for her to defeat that version of herself inside her mind, leaving the non-Super Saiyan Widow the one standing tall. Alright, let's get into how this ends. So at this point in the show, 3 seasons have built up to who gets the Badlands. A reminder, the Badlands are the only fertile land left in the world, or some crap like that. It's really important.
I am super duper cereal.
Well, Sonny dies fighting Pilgrim in mutual annihilation, and in death he's become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. He is now a ghost talking to the master of the warrior monks, who is also a ghost, who says, by the way, Pilgrim was hiding guns and he didn't know what they were. People are still screwed, you didn't accomplish anything. MK never gets over himself and dies fighting the Widow, her boy toy, and her on-again, off-again daughter. And finally, the Widow gets everything. She gets the Iron Throne, she gets a new family with a bun in the oven, she gets Super Saiyan powers but better than everyone else, and everyone loves her. I hate this so very much. The Widow was one of, if not the most, backstabbing, underhanded, tyrannical villains in the series. Why does everything work out for her? I get it, themes of redemption run through the series and whatnot, but her redemption after realizing she's been a bitch was never a thing until the second half of part 1. You know where redemption would have played off really nice? Sunny and MK. Let them hash it out and have MK forgive Sunny. This would symbolically redeem Sunny of all of his sins to the audience, as someone he directly hurt would forgive him. And the conversation is simple. Hey buddy, I was a different person, I've changed, I understand your pain, please forgive me and we can work together as friends. But nope! MK has to die a little bastard, refusing to forgive Sunny, even after getting speeches talking about how many people he and his new boss have killed because, say it with me now, Pilgrim is just another Baron.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
The Widow should have been the one to die, sacrificing herself for the future of the Badlands. Or failing that, goes into a self-imposed exile with her family. She flies too close to the sun, ideally her daughter would die because of this, and her wings burn. And she especially wouldn't have gotten Super Saiyan powers. Was not the entire point of her little vision quest to show she didn't need the powers? So who rules the Badlands then? Sunny or another character I haven't mentioned because she got killed off. Sunny would have had the Baronship thrust upon him unwillingly, thus setting him up to be not just another Baron, as he wasn't seeking the power to begin with throughout the entirety of the series. Close with the scene that things are looking up and ditch the cliffhanger. Bada bing, bada boom, you've wrapped everything up. This further goes into Sunny's redemption as he can now make people's lives better instead of dead. Yes, technically Widow is redeemed the same way, but her entire story arc and theme has not focused on redemption like Sunny's has, and I think Sunny deserves it more. After all, he's lost his love, his friends, his entire way of life, all in the pursuit of redemption and doing what's right. Widow hasn't. People were mad at her, but they all got over it. Sunny, even without death, is in a much worse place than he was at the beginning of the story, whereas the Widow is in a significantly better place without any sacrifice. And maybe it's just me, but that's not a good ending.